Hello po mga ka-viral and welcome back again to this YouTube channel. Latest update na naman tayo ngayon. Iyak si Sara Duterte sa matinding sinapit sa impeachment niya sa Kongreso. Matinding kahihiyan ang kinakaharap ni Sara Duterte sa nalalapit na pagbubukas ng kanyang mga bank accounts pati na rin ang kayamanan ng pamilya Duterte. Malalaman ng taong bayan ang mga dollar accounts at nakulimbat nilang kayamanan. Kung kaya ay todo effort ngayon si Sara Duterte at kanyang mga kaalyado upang maharang at hindi matuloy ang kanyang impeachment. Tinawag niyang fishing expedition umano ang ginagawa sa kanya ng Kongreso upang mangalap ng mga ebidensya laban sa kanya. Dagdag pa niya ay kulang umano ang mga ebidensya na hawak ng prosecution na magdidiin sa kanya. Nagpadala siya ng letter of ad cautelam bilang tugon sa hinihingi o subpena ng Kongreso, bilang tugon sa mga inirereklamong mga kaso niya. Pasado sa Committee on Justice sa Kamara ang impeachment bilang sufficient on substance at sufficient in form. Ibig sabihin ay merong basihan at grounds ang third at fourth impeachment. Dagdag pa ni Congresswoman Attorney Jinky Luestro ay kahit nakareses ang Kongreso at magre-resume pa sa Mayo ay meron ng mga schedules ang pagdinig sa impeachment at tuloy-tuloy pa rin ito. Dahil dito ay kabadong-kabado na ngayon ang Vice Presidente dahil posibleng magko-convict ang Senado bilang impeachment court kung makikita nila ang mga ebidensya. Kung kaya ay usap-usapan ang posibleng pagre-resign ni Sara Duterte sa pwesto upang maiwasan ang kanyang impeachment at posible pang makatakbo sa 2028 presidential elections. Na sinagot naman ni Atty. Jinky Luestro kahit na nag-resign si Sara Duterte ay matutuloy pa rin aniya ang kanyang impeachment. Kung kaya ay wala na talagang takas si Sara Duterte dahil maliban sa matatanggal ito sa pwesto ay posible itong makukulong at masisira ang kanyang pangalan sa publiko. Handa na rin sa ngayon si Ramil Madriaga upang humarap sa Kamara at magbigay ng kanyang salaysay at nalalaman sa pagdi-deliver o manu niya ng mga pera kina Sara Duterte mula sa operasyon ng Pogo. Si Madriaga ay dating pinagkakatiwalaan ng mga Duterte subalit bumaliktad ito dahil pinabayaan o mano nila itong makulong. Nadiskubre din na merong nagtangka kay Madriaga sa loob ng kulungan na ayon sa NBI ay meron umanong inutusan at nagbayad para kay Madriaga. Nagpasa naman ng resolution sa Representative Chel Diokno upang ilipat si Madriaga sa custody ng Kongreso. Samantala ay booking din ang mga utak at nagsuwol sa 18 ex-Marines. Damay dito ang asawa ni Sara Duterte na si Mans Carpio at Mike Defensor. Isa-isa nang iniimbestigahan ng NBI ang backgrounds ng 18 ex-Marines. Pinaghahandaan na din ng Ombudsman ang pagbubukas ng mga bank accounts ni Sara Duterte. Sa request ng Kamara sa Ombudsman, ipinakilala na rin sa publiko ang Panel of Defense o mga abogado ni Sara Duterte na haharap sa kanyang impeachment. Sa ngayon ay meron ng mga schedules ang Kongreso sa pagdinig sa impeachment. Haharap man o hindi si Sara sa pagdinig ay matutuloy pa rin ang pagdinig ng kanyang impeachment.
Mga kabunyog, si Congresswoman Beatrix Luestro, ang chairman o chairperson ng Justice Committee ng Kamara, House Justice Committee, ay nagpaliwanag. Maganda yung pagkakapaliwanag niya. Tungkol doon sa mga abogado ni Sara, yung mga abogado ni Sara na dalawa, si Attorney Michael Puwa at saka si Attorney Reynold Monsayak. Kasi nagiging issue yan, ang sinubmit kasi ng kampo ni Sara, ang sinubmit nilang lista na nag-entry of appearance, ibig sabihin, ang ipinasok nilang mga abogado na tatayo para kay Sara, 16. 16 lahat-lahat. Ngayon, kasama dun sa 16, si Attorney Michael Puwa at si Attorney Reynold Monsayak. Ang problema dyan sa dalawa na yan, na-involve yan dyan sa mga kaso na yan. Yung mga kaso na ini-impeach si Sara, yun na nga ang dahilan ng impeachment kay Sara, na-involve yan. Si Michael Puwa ay dating tagapagsalita ng DepEd. Si Attorney Reynold Monsayak, kabats ni Sara Duterte umano yan sa San Sebastian. Tagapagsalita rin dati ng OVP ba? Office of the Vice President. Tapos, naging head ng procurement. Imaginein mo, head ka ng procurement unit ng DepEd. Parang Vincent Awards Committee. Kaya kumbaga malaki ang pananagutan nila. Kaya sabi ng mga kongresistang miyembro ng Justice Committee tulad ni Congressman Terry Ridon, hindi sila pwede.
Well, malaking usapin ho yung pag-enter po na appearance ni Michael Poa at saka ni Reynold Monsayak kasi syempre hindi lang naman ho sila ordinaryong mga abogado representing the Vice President. Relevant po sila doon sa mga investigasyon relating to the Department of Education. Kasi, syempre, si Mr. Powa at si Mr. Monsayak ay nagtrabaho bilang una, tagapagsalita ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Pangalawa, sila po ay nanilbihan talaga bilang mga matataas na opisyal ng Department of Education. So, for example, si Mr. Monsayak, siya po yung Assistant Secretary for Procurement. No? And doon po sa mga previous hearings po ng Kongreso, in-identify ho siya ni Undersecretary Gloria Mercado, nakasama ho doon sa mga nakiusap sa kanya relating to a procurement process. No? So, I think very relevant po na makita ko nga meron bang conflict of interest ito pong dalawang maabogadong ito in their capacity as a lawyer and in their future capacity as resource persons or witnesses.
Dapat hindi sila isama sa abogado ni Sara Duterte. Papayagan ba sila na maging abogado ni Sara? I-recognize ba sila bilang abogado sa impeachment ni Sara? O hindi? Kasi ang argumento nga ng mga kongresista ng Justice Committee, ang sinasabi nila, hindi pwedeng lawyer ka, abogado ka, at the same time, kumbaga pwede kang ipatawag dahil sangkot ka sa kaso na yan. Parang lalabas, isa ka sa magiging testigo dyan sa kaso na yan, laban kay Sara sa impeachment niya. So, maganda yung pagkakapaliwanag ni Congresswoman Beatrix Listro.
Point of view of a chairperson, no? I wish to express the significance of the issue raised by some members of the House, to be specific si Congressman Ridon. I saw his interview at ang sabi niya dito, they cannot be a witness and a lawyer at the same time, no? So ano ba yung pinupunto niya dito? Sa ilalim ng batas, meron tayong tinatawag na privileged communication. Meaning, ang pinag-usapan ng isang abogado at ng kliyente ay protektado ng batas at hindi mo yan pwedeng isiwalat even in court, no? That is actually considered as an argument in order to evade the possibility of testifying before the court, or that includes the Justice Committee, no? So dito sa puntong to, kung abogado ng respondent si Michael Powa at si Attorney Monsayak, Attorney Powa and Attorney Monsayak, kung abogado sila ng Vice President, it means that they can raise the defense of privileged communication. That whatever information they receive in the attorney-client relationship between the VP and themselves, no? Ang hindi natin pwedeng hingin sa kanila sa harap ng Justice Committee. Well, we are raising this concern because nakita natin ito during the 2024 investigation of the Good Government Committee, yung Blue Ribbon ng House, that at the very least, persons of interest, si Attorney Monsayak at saka si Attorney Powa, no? May mga portions ng investigation doon which actually show the direct participation of these two as officials either of DepEd or OVP or at least as associates of the Vice President, no? So, kung tatawagin sila, for example, ng prosecutor to the witness stand, either as hostile witness, kahit as hostile witness, no? Kasi nga, they're associated to the respondent, no? We're seeing the possibility na baka magka-issue dun sa rule ng privileged communication. Mahalaga ang magiging testimonya ni Attorney Monsayak at ni Attorney Powa. At if they will be allowed to enter their appearance as lawyer as well, no? The possibility is, pag tinawag sila ng prosecutor to the witness stand, they will raise the argument of privileged communication in order to spare them from giving their testimony. No? That's a possibility.
Dahil nga lumalabas na sangkot ito o dawit itong sina Michael Powa, Attorney Powa at saka si Attorney Monsayak, posible silang ipatawag ng prosecution mismo. Ibig sabihin, isusumpi na sila para maglabas ng kanilang mga pahayag o paliwanag tungkol sa mga posibleng pagkakasangkot nila. So ipapatawag sila. Ngayon, pag pinatawag sila, ang sasabihin nila diyan, hindi sila pwedeng magsalita hindi sila pwedeng mag-appear sa hearing para magbigay linaw sa mga issue ng sangkot nila kasi i-invoke nila sigurado yan yung lawyer-client privilege nila kay Sara. Kumbaga, kliyente nila si Sara eh. Lawyer sila ni Sara. Sa lawyer-client privilege, may ano dyan ng confidentiality. Hindi mo pwedeng ilabas yung mga nalalaman mo dahil abogado ka ng kliyente. Hindi pwedeng i-divulge yan ng abogado. Lawyer-client privilege yan. Confidential yan. So, kapag in-invoke yan nila Puwa, in-invoke yan nila Monsayak, makakalusot sila dyan. Hindi na sila ngayon magiging hindi na sila makaka-appear doon sa pagdinig sa impeachment. Samantalang pwede silang ipasubpina para magbigay linaw sa mga issue na yan na kinasasangkutan ni Sara. Pero kung abogado sila, i-invoke nila dyan yung lawyer-client privilege. Yan yung paliwanag ni Congresswoman Beatrix Listro, ang chairman ng Justice Committee. Kaya hindi pwede. Hindi sila dapat na maging abogado kasi magiging magiging problema later. Magiging problema later. I-invoke nila yan ang lawyer-client privilege. So, kapag sinugpi na sila ng prosecution na posibleng ang mangyari, lulusutan nila yan, maiikutan nila yan. Samantalang marami silang nalalaman sa mga ginawa ni Sara. Dahil nga, mayor ang kanilang naging mga roles sa mga pangyayaring yung mga ground sa impeachment ni Sara, lalo na sa panahon sa Vice President at saka sa DepEd. Kaya napakaganda ng paliwanag ni Congresswoman Beatrix Listro. Ang galing ng paliwanag niya. So mga kabunyog, ngayong araw ay nag-hearing ang Justice Committee ng Kamara at ang mga importanteng na pagdesisyonan ngayong araw, diniklara ng Justice Committee na sufficient in grounds. Sufficient in grounds ang impeachment ni Sara. Dahil sufficient ito in grounds, magpo-proceed na po sa hearing. So magpo-proceed na sa hearing at naka-schedule na ang sunod na hearing sa March 25. Sa March 25. Ayan mga kabunyuga, simula na talaga ng hearing proper. Ilinaw ko lang mga kabunyog, ano ang pagkakaiba ng hearing sa March 25 saka itong nangyari ng mga hearings? Ang tawag doon sa March 25, hearing proper. Itong mga nangyari nitong nakaraang mga araw, ang mga nagsagawa na ba ng hearings ang Justice Committee? Oo. Pero yung hearing proper, yung totoong hearing na talaga, na magpipresent na ng mga ebidensya, testigo, ano na po yan? Yan yung tinatawag na hearing proper. So mangyayari yan sa March 25. Okay, pag-usapan natin mga kabunyog itong tungkol sa sufficiency in grounds. Kasi maraming nagtatanong sa akin, Attorney, ibig sabihin ng sufficiency in grounds? Kasi parang ang dami ng dinidesisyonan ng Justice Committee. Nung una, sufficiency in form. Pagkatapos naman, sufficiency in substance. Ngayon na naman, mayroon na naman sufficiency in grounds. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Anong pagkaiba ng sufficiency in grounds doon sa sufficiency in form at sufficiency in substance? Bakit mayroon pang mga ganyan? At sa totoo lang, kahit nga si Marcoleta, yung anak ni Rodante Marcoleta, yung Paulo Marcoleta, nalito na rin eh. Sabi ni Rodante Marcoleta kanina, bakit nauna nang dinesisyonan na yung sufficiency in form, sufficiency in substance, dapat inuna muna, may grounds ba para sa impeachment ni Sara? Kumbaga, mga kabunyog, mga kababayan, ang sinasabi ni Paulo Marcoleta kanina, nakakatawa. Bakit daw nag-decide na sa sufficiency in form, saka sufficiency in substance, dapat inuna daw grounds. Kasi dapat malaman muna, may grounds ba para sa impeachment? Yun, sinagot siya kanina ni Congresswoman Beatrix Listro, yung chairman ng Justice Committee, binara si Marcoleta. Nagkalat si Marcoleta kanina, napanood niyo ba yun? Sabi ni Congresswoman Beatrix Listro, basahin mo kasi yung rules. Hindi ka kasi nagbabasa ng rules eh. Basahin mo yung rules, yung impeachment rules. Anong nakalagay doon? Step 1, i-determine muna kung sufficiency in form. Step 2, i-determine kung sufficient in substance. Pagkatapos, i-determine kung sufficient in grounds. Pagkatapos niyan, mag-hearing proper. Pagkatapos ng hearing proper, i-determine kung may probable cause. Pag may probable cause, i-refer sa plenary. Yan yung mga steps anya. Sabi ni Beatrix Listro, yan yung steps. Nakalagay yan sa rules ng impeachment rules ng House of Representatives. Basahin nyo. Basahin mo pala. Barado si Marcoleta. Anyway, ano ba kasi yung pagkakaiba ng sufficiency in form, sufficiency in substance, saka sufficiency in grounds?
Public health and economic growth. Behind these numbers are women and girls. In many rural and marginalized communities, it is still the mother, the daughter, the lola who walks farthest, waits the longest to fetch water, and often the last to drink when supplies run low. Women manage water in the household, but they are underrepresented in water governance, from barangay water councils to utility boards, which means their lived experience rarely shapes decisions on water allocation, pricing, or infrastructure. Mr. President, let's look at the numbers. The water crisis hits our most vulnerable hardest. Data from the DepEd reveals that 3,628 schools lack regular water sources, while over 8,000 rely on rainwater. Only 61% of schools nationwide have access to clean water, leaving millions of students vulnerable to dehydration and disease during class hours. On sanitation, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority Annual Poverty Indicator Survey, 84.7% of households had access to improved sanitation in 2024, up from 84% in 2022. Geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. The disparity is more evident in these areas. According to the 2026 PIDS study, 12.4 million Filipinos lack safe drinking water access. On health, the consequences are fatal. Diarrhea is the second leading cause of death in children under 5, responsible for approximately 480,000 to 525,000 deaths annually. It causes roughly 9% of all child deaths in this age group, with about 1.7 billion cases occurring yearly, mainly driven by the contaminated water, poor sanitation, and malnutrition. And on women, finally, we look at the burden on women. In 2025, the UNICEF and WHO reported 1 in 4 globally lack safe water, with women and girls fetching it in 7 out of 10 households without on-premise supply, spending 200 million hours daily worldwide. And in Philippine rural areas, women travel 2 to 3 hours daily to river or springs during scarcity, risking assault and foregoing education or work. Our recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now facing an energy and a fuel crisis because of the ongoing conflict. But let us not wait for a water crisis. The time to act is now. The time to prepare for a situation which will draw out all our resources, which will require us to act swiftly, can be navigated if we plan carefully. There are many things we can do, Mr. President. In the 20th Congress, I filed Senate Bill number 348, also known as the Water Sustainability Act. This bill establishes the Philippine Water Sustainability Framework, which shall be used by the relevant agencies to ensure that Filipinos will always have safe and clean sources of water and guarantee the availability of these resources for future generations through responsible and sustainable management. I would also like to highlight the Philippine Institute for Development Studies proposal to create 3 separate bodies to regulate water to help address weak enforcement powers and regulatory overlaps. PIDS backs the creation of the Department of Water Resources for water resource planning and policy, the Water Resources Allocation Office for water rights allocation and adjudication, and the Water Regulatory Commission for economic regulation of water utilities. This separation reflects international best practices where policy making, resource allocation, and economic regulations are handled by separate institutions, according to PIDS. We also recommend the launch of a national water literacy and hygiene program campaign targeting schools and workplaces to institutionalize water management and sanitation as a universal civic duty, while specifically debunking the myth of water labor as a female-only task by encouraging men and boys to share the domestic burden of water collection. To meet 2030 targets for WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools, the UN recommends doubling current investment and construction speeds. Moreover, the UN specifically recommends promoting the inclusion of women, youth, and indigenous communities in how water resources are governed. The ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation discussion emphasized that fostering water diplomacy through ASEAN's cooperative approach can prevent tensions over shared resources, strengthen regional water security, and engage diverse actors beyond state-level discussion. In conclusion, Mr. President and colleagues, water security is not only an infrastructure challenge, it is the foundation of human dignity, public health, and gender equality. Ensuring that clean, affordable, and reliable water flows to every household is more than just a target. It is an act of intergenerational fairness and justice. It is for the women who have carried its burden for too long, for communities who historically are overlooked, and for the generation who will inherit the rivers and coast we protect today. We must act now and work together with our national agencies, LGUs, and water districts to turn these targets into reality for every family. Thank you, Madam President.
Very much, Senator Pia Cayetano. I would like to associate myself with the views on water and sustainability by the good Senator, Chairman of the SDG Committee, and wish her an advance happy birthday on World Water Day. I hope she's listening so she can hear the early birthday greetings. In the meantime, we recognize Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, the Acting Majority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And likewise, I would like to greet our good Senator an advance happy birthday. So with that, I move to refer the privileged speech of Senator Pia Cayetano to the Committee on Sustainable Development.
Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, may I introduce my individual amendments to Senate Bill number 1966, to wit, Amendment number 1 on page 2, line 8, before the conjunction and insert the phrase persons of concern, such as asylum seekers, stateless persons, and refugees. I so move, Mr. President.
An objection? Hearing none, approved.
Amendment number 2 on page 4, line 6, between the words existing and customary, insert the phrase religious and. I so move, Mr. President.
An objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Amendment number 3, still on page 5, lines 12 to 16. Delete the phrase which shall cover hospitalization expenses, professional fees, cost of medicines, and other medical treatment or procedures such as implants, common laboratory tests, and diagnostic imaging procedures for any illness or ailment, including postpartum complications and provisions of assistive technology devices, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase to pay for hospitalization expenses, other medical treatments or procedures, which includes complicated birthing procedures or high-risk pregnancies, as well as professional fees, purchase of medicines and assistive technology device, goods or other services prescribed by the physician of a health facility. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
And lastly, amendment number 4 is still on page 5, lines 16 and 17. Delete the sentence, a qualified beneficiary may be given assistance based on a hospital bill only once. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
Those are my individual amendments, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
No more amendments, what? No more amendments? Are there any more amendments?
Mr. Majority Floor Leader, may we just suspend, because I believe Senator Lauren Legarda will have few amendments on this assistance for individual in
On the
crisis.
AIX. If she's ready, if the good lady senator is ready, we can already take it up now as individual amendments, Mr. President.
Senator Lauren Legarda is recognized to introduce her amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of the good sponsor, I would like to propose the following amendments. One, on clarifying that medical assistance under AIX is supplemental or augmentative, assuming that is the correct nomenclature to existing health assistance mechanisms. On page 5, lines 12 to 18, section 4I, after the sentence ending with the purchase of vitamins and aftercare shall not be covered, insert a new sentence to read as follows. Section 4, definition of terms. Medical assistance refers to a qualified beneficiary may be given assistance based on a hospital bill only once. Other health care expenses such as immunization, birthing, and purchase of vitamins and aftercare shall not be covered. Medical assistance under this act shall be supplemental or augmentative in character and may be availed of when existing health financing, assistance, or benefit mechanisms, including those under Republic Act 11223 or the Universal Health Care Act, PhilHealth, Malasakit Centers, the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, or other similar programs are unavailable, insufficient, delayed, or do not fully address the immediate crisis of the qualified beneficiary. I submit, Mr. President.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to
Subject to style.
Yes, thank you. And just to kindly put on record the rationale behind the amendment, and I thank the good sponsor for accepting it. The bill properly characterizes AIX as a stopgap measure, but its definition of medical assistance remains broad enough to overlap with PhilHealth, UHC benefits, Malasakit Centers, PCSO, and other medical assistance mechanisms. Because without a clarifying clause, there is a high risk of duplication or inconsistent implementation, and beneficiaries being referred from one program to another without timely relief. This amendment, therefore, is necessary to make it clear that AIX medical assistance is supplemental or augmentative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah. Noted.
There's
Is there an
another-
objection? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
On clarifying the boundary between legitimate LGU coordination and prohibited interference or political involvement. On page 8, lines 9 to 24, and page 8, lines 1 to 6, section 9D, after the phrase during extreme emergencies and disasters, please insert a proviso to read as follows. Section 9, modes of delivery services. D, transfer and prepositioning of material assistance to LGUs and national government agencies, NGAs, when necessary for timely and efficient delivery of assistance during extreme emergencies and disasters, provided that the participation of LGUs or NGAs under this paragraph shall be limited to logistical, warehousing, transport, venue, crowd management, or other similar non-discretionary support necessary for the timely delivery of assistance, and that LGUs or their officials, employees, representatives, or agents shall not determine eligibility, influence beneficiary selection, control the release or distribution of assistance, require endorsements, or attach names, images, branding, or political presence to any activity under this act. The succeeding provisos may be revised subject to style.
What
I
does the
submit,
sponsor
Mr.
say?
President.
We accept, Mr. President.
Thank you. I thank the sponsor.
Any
Again,
objection? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
Again, just to put on record the rationale, and I thank the good sponsor for his acceptance, this amendment is necessary to make clear that LGU or NGA participation under Section 9D is limited to non-discretionary logistical support, does not include any role in eligibility determination, beneficiary selection, release of assistance, endorsement, or political branding. Third, on narrowing the real-time data sharing provision and providing express data privacy safeguards. On page 9, lines 16 to 18, section 10, after the sentence